Before we start, here's a view of the finished product in use. I was asked to build a platform to elevate an antique table I had refinished years ago so that one could stand up while using their computer on the table. So I decided to build a platform box with drawers for storage space below the table. Then I decided to put the whole thing on casters so it can move around easily. Originally, the table had these club feet, which I removed and replaced with low-profile feet and mounting arrangements, allowing 2 inches of extra space for storage. Before we get started, we'll take some measurements around the base to get a sense of how much available space we have. It's about 32 inches wide and 18 inches deep. The available height is 12 3/8 inches, allowing for casters and table mounting arrangements in place of the original club feet. We'll follow the curve outline of the base to allow toe space for the user. First, we start with a composite pencil sketch of the cabinet. Next, we refine the detailed drawings on the computer. Then we pencil sketch the drawers and refine the drawer detail drawings. Next, we select the materials. In this case, clear pine with contrasting oak panels. Then we cut grooves, called dados, in the pieces, which help the sections fit together. Then we cut the pieces to length according to the drawings. We create templates to duplicate complex shapes, or curves. Then we assemble and glue together the top and bottom frames using biscuit joints with no nails. Once the glue has dried, we scrape off the excess glue and rough sand the pieces. One at a time, we glue the upright pieces in place using more biscuit points. Square alignment of the vertical upright pieces is critical to complete the frame assembly, so blocks are used to make sure the angles are square to 90 degrees. 8 nails are used to hold the bottom in position for assembly while the glue sets. The excess glue is again removed and the unit is rough sanded. Blocks are added to the front of the frame for attaching drawer slides. First, one set of drawer slides is installed for the bottom drawer inside the cabinet. Next, we can assemble the drawers using more biscuit joints to hold the drawers together. The biscuit joiner is used to cut slots in the ends of the wood, and a biscuit-shaped piece of wood is fitted into the slots to be glued in place. 4 nails are set in the rear corners of the drawer to hold the shape of the drawer while the pieces are fitted together and the glue sets. The bottom drawer is fitted and installed first, then the top drawer is installed above. Now we use a router with a roundover bit to remove the sharp corner edges. We'll install knife hinges for access doors to some bonus storage spaces that I discovered while assembling the unit. I'm putting a short strip of masking tape over the work area to prevent burning the wood from the multi-tool saw blade. I put some tape over the blade to mark the cutting depth for the multi-tool plunge cuts. Once we've made the cuts with the multi-tool, we'll use a chisel to remove the wood, making space for the knife hinges. The knife hinge is screwed in place inside the cabinet. I cut some blocks of wood to receive the screws from the knife hinges, as the oak panels are too thin to secure to the hinges. Later, we'll glue the panel to these blocks. We'll put some magnetic catches at the top of the openings to keep the panel doors closed. I've installed the catches with mating steel plates in preparation for gluing them to the panels. We're gluing the catch plates because the panels are too thin to receive the screws included with the magnetic catches. We test fit the panels in place to make sure they fit properly. Notice the masking tape between the magnetic catch surfaces, which is to prevent the glue from flowing into the magnetic catches. I'm using epoxy for 3 reasons. 1. Epoxy bonds well for both the wood and metal surfaces. 2. Epoxy cures quickly, so it won't travel too far and flow where I don't want it to go. And 3. Epoxy is thick and will fill the gaps between the parts. I'll place a dab of epoxy on each of the panel mounting points, then set the panel in place for the epoxy to cure in 90 seconds. Once the drawer installation and the internal details are complete, We'll cut the oak panels to fit the recessed slots for the enclosure. Clamps are placed over the panels to hold them securely in place while the Gorilla Glue dries. Because the Gorilla Glue expands as it cures, it's imperative to clamp the panels securely or they may lift out of place from the expanding glue. Turn the unit upside down to let any excess glue flow toward the top surface to fill any voids. The Gorilla Glue is a bit forgiving and will fill any gaps in the joints. After the glue has dried, we'll take off the clamps and all the scraps that held the panel in place. I had used saran wrap to prevent the glue from sticking to the wood scraps. Failure to use saran wrap may take a chunk out of the wood surface when removing the scraps. Now we rough sand all the excess glue. Really high spots can be carefully removed with a sharp, wide chisel. Then we'll fine sand the surfaces in preparation for applying the finish. Before applying our wood stain, I'm applying some mid-wax pre-stain wood conditioner, which is supposed to help the stain be absorbed evenly without blotches. Now I'm applying some Red Devil English Walnut stain, very old can, which seemed to be the closest to the original finish of the table we're matching. Looks way too dark over that beautiful wood. Now as we wipe off the excess stain, we can see that only a small part of the color actually gets retained. In fact, it looks lighter than I remember the attaching table to be. Now we can put on our polyurethane top coat. I like this Last & Last brand. It has held up well on stairs where I've used it in the past. We put on 3 coats on all outside surfaces, with light sanding between coats with 220 grit paper, followed by a wipe with a tack cloth to remove dust. After the 3rd and last coat is thoroughly dry and hardened, I buff the surfaces with a piece of plain brown corrugated cardboard. The cardboard is abrasive enough to knock off any high spots from pesky dust particles, yet it does not scratch the gloss finish. I also brushed a single coat on all interior surfaces to seal the wood from humidity. To keep the whole unit mobile, I installed 4 Harbor Freight 1 5/8 inch casters on the bottom surface. Meanwhile, back in my metal shop, I fabricated some steel mounts from 1/8 by 3/4 inch angle iron. I cut out a 45-degree chunk to allow bending of the angle iron to 90 degrees. Then I brazed the cutout chunk into the bent angle to hold it together and to provide a mounting hole for the new table feet. I skipped showing making the feet because they were pretty simple to fit on top of the cabinet. Here's a view of the completed cabinet with the top drawer open and the 2 side panels open to the bonus storage areas. On top of the cabinet are all the feet and steel mounts to attach the table. We searched high and low looking for the ideal storage containers to fit into the bonus storage spaces and finally settled on this pair from Walmart to fill up the space nicely. Of course, we'll mount the storage containers with Velcro so they can be removed, filled, and stored conveniently. With the mounting feet in place on the corners of the cabinet, we're ready to receive the table. The metal mounts are screwed to the bottom of the table feet, but only sit on the top of the cabinet, so the table can be removed and both the table and the cabinet can be used independently again if desired, with no visible marks. Here's a view of the completed cabinet with the table mounted on top, showing the side bonus storage areas opened and the drawer pulls installed.